Guys, let's jump backwards. All right, I spoke to you earlier about a headline. The headline said Dana White tells us what is next for Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. There was a 19-minute clip. I watched it all. I had never heard Dana say what was next. Now, I have to share with you, if it's in there and I missed it, I look like a fool right now. But I don't believe it's in there. Not only because I didn't hear it, it would be out of line. It would not be, I'm only using history as our greatest trajectory for the future. I'm looking at 205 pounds. I'm looking at Glover Teixeira, who was the champion, who was winning a fight. Not maybe, not your opinion. The cards were turned in. Mathematically, Glover becomes champions if he can outrun the clock by exactly 30 seconds when he gets beat. That is a very similar situation to the one that we're in right now. The time's a little bit different, but the math doesn't lie, and Kamaru's going to win. Dana didn't announce that fight. He didn't announce it at the post-fight press conference. As a matter of fact, he waited 7 weeks to do it. So while I read this headline, and while I watched this clip, and while I'm well aware I could have missed something, I don't think I am. Because it really would be out of line. You've got a major domino effect. I don't know how many of you were clamoring to see Leon versus Kamaru Part 2. Now, I would trust, after this finished, Part 3 is going to be a very different story. I would trust that with Glover versus Yuri, since I personally believe that to be the greatest light heavyweight fight that I've ever seen. But I'm just sharing with you there are some moving parts there. And one of the reasons that Dana was put in a very tough position to announce, I'm going back, Yuri and Glover's topic, come on, for him to go and announce that is because he's got Ankalaev versus Anthony Smith, which people believe is a number one contenders fight. I'm going back in time, but this was one of the things that from a political standpoint is going to have to be considered. I bring that to you. If Dana was to come out, right, the headline says that Dana said this. The headline on the dirt sheets right now says that Dana has already spoken for what's going to happen with Kamaru and Leon, which looks like a Part 3. That's what the headlines say. I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. I also don't believe that it's true. Golden rule, put yourself in somebody else's shoes. How would you act? If I have a pay-per-view that I'm moving right now, I don't have a title, but I have built this around the next best thing to a title, which is a number one contendership, and that's exactly what Chimaev versus Diaz has said for us. Make sure you don't miss it. This is going to be huge. There's no belt up, but there's the next best thing as a number one contendership. That sounds right. That does make a level of sense to me. If you beat Chimaev and you become a number one contender, I get that. If you are Chimaev, you're completely undefeated, and now you're also a main eventer, getting over on Diaz, you become a number one contender. Like, that makes sense to me. So regardless of what these headlines are claiming that they said, I think my ears heard it right. I don't think I zoned out. I don't think Dana White said that he's going to make Usman Edwards Part 3, and I don't think he's going to say that. Not prior to Chimaev versus Diaz. Now, Dana wouldn't be wrong, right? You're whenever you are confronted with evidence that you didn't previously have, of course you can change your mind. Sure he can. Dana did not know that Kamaru Usman is now going to be in the contenders list. Dana thought that he was looking for a number one contender to be Kamaru's next opponent. I get that things can change. I'm just sharing for you, regardless of what the internet is telling you, I don't believe that that has changed, and I also don't believe that it's going to. I think this is going to play out. I think that Edwards is going to be basking in the glow. He's going to get this victory tour. I believe he's going to be flown out. He's going to be put in the front row. He's going to be shown a wonderful treatment. And I believe that he's going to take in Chimaev versus Diaz. And I believe that the winner of Chimaev and Diaz is going to have their say. They're going to go into that fight with a full head of motivation, thinking that a dream could come true, that coming out of this fight, that after this fight, they're only one win away. I believe that. I don't think anybody's going to take that away from him. And I also think for the people that are saying that it should be Usman versus Edwards, I don't think you've thought it through. I don't think that you fully mean that. And it's a very interesting position. I know who the champion of the world is, and I show him respect, for sure. I also know who the better fighter Saturday night was. And it wasn't the guy that got his hand raised. But what do you do with that? I mean, what do you do with that? What difference does it make? Do I have a compelling argument to come to a jury of the peers, and it's what I'm doing right now, and tell you the best fighter in the world is Kamaru Usman? As a matter of fact, he proved it Saturday. He didn't win the fight. Leon won the fight, but Kamaru showed that he was a better fighter. What difference does it make? And if it does, since when? I mean, people were very happy when Nate Diaz hurt Leon and almost had a dramatic finish. People were very happy to back Nate up when Nate said the most important part of the fight is the high spot of the fight. The high spot went to me. I won the fight. Like, we agreed with that. Do we have to look at ourselves and go, oh, well, we only agreed to that because we like Nate? I mean, is that what we have to do now? Because I'm telling you the same thing in reverse. Kamaru Usman was the better fighter, physically and mentally. Your lion eyes that told you that he lost a round or he was dominated by a round, he lost a position. He got tripped and went to his back. He lost a position. By the time he recovered from that one position, he never lost another round. So what? I mean, I'm asking you, what difference does it make? Is anything that I just said, while all of it's completely true, what difference does it make? You tell me. I want to hear from you. What difference does that make to you? Do we all of a sudden want to start following the rankings? Do we all of a sudden want to start or do we want to tell the story? Do we want the show to go on? Do we want to preserve the idea of Chimaev and Diaz? Do we want to preserve the fact that that's a number one contendership? If that is a number one contendership and we are going to observe it, and one of them cuts a great promo, which they both have the ability to do, and we have Leon right there in attendance, and come Monday morning after that fight, we're going to have a very different conversation. What do we do with Kamaru? You can't just let Kamaru float around. You can't. Kamaru Usman has to be in world championship fights. Kamaru Usman will hurt you if you're the number one contender. If you're just one of the guys. If you're a number 7 guy, you're a number 8 guy, you're good, you're really good. He will send you to the emergency room. It's a big deal. You got to match up Usman correctly. So if we do want to have some kind of respect to returning the favor that Kamaru Usman just did to Edwards, if we want to do that, and I think there's a good reason for that, do we wait? Do you just have Kamaru wait? Do you see the problem here, guys? I'm not expecting you to have the answers. I'm attempting to make you try to solve a very difficult problem, and at the end of it, your final analysis is going to come to a conclusion of, man, matchmaking is really hard. If I give that to Kamaru, and I probably should, but I just took it from Chimaev, Diaz, and all the fans that are supporting what we were told is a number one contenders match. I mean, do you see how two things can't be true at once? It's tough. We're told that Masvidal is going to fight Burns. What are you going to do with that? Now, what does Burns have to do to return to a top spot? All of these things are relevant. All of these things have to be considered. Ultimately, you juxtapose that against a calendar and a date. You decide who your two guys are. You make 2 phone calls. One of them says no, you're bringing somebody else in. Complicated job. Complicated position. This is a complicated decision that has to be made. And I don't believe it's going to. I don't believe that decision is going to be made. At least until after Chimaev and Diaz have their say.